Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake, myself, Big Baby David, talking some baseball. Gonna get into the playoff odds a little bit, some other kind of Vegas lines, because they tell a more honest story than we do sometimes. They're playing with real money. So I was looking at a couple teams' odds to make the playoffs, and I think there was some interesting lines that you may or may not expect. I don't know. And then I want to check in Cy Young and MVP too. So it's kind of like a 1 month check-in on some of the best players and teams while also seeing what Vegas has to say. And some of the numbers get cooked a little bit. I was looking at the Yankees are like the big AL favorites, and I think that's just because more people bet the Yankees, and that's how that
they're always just a little juiced.
That's kind of just how that works a little bit. But I think there's some interesting tidbits to be taken out of it, not necessarily even from a gambling sense, but more so on a baseball sense and what the people dealing with the money are seeing, because they don't mess around. And then I will probably close with a little bit on the NFL draft, which I know not a lot of you people come here necessarily for that, but the NFL draft is one of my favorite things just ever. Drafting. If you've seen any of our ancillary content, whether MLB The Show, even Does Guts count? I love drafting.
Yeah,
Captain's League.
I was about to say we made Captain's League so you guys could scratch a draft itch.
It's when I used to play video games growing up, I would just do the franchises, draft, and then like sim the games.
Yeah, maybe play with them once.
It's one of those, people. I'd tell some people that, and I'd get some weird looks. That's some of the weirdest looks I'd get from people as a child playing a video game but not playing the video game. Anyways, going into the numbers a little bit, and always shout out DraftKings. And I wanted to just pivot off where we last left off when I was talking to you guys last time, Monday morning. I told you, someone needs to actually be ringing the bell on Houston. Their season is spiraling pretty quickly. By the way, they did lose Game 1 to the Cubs. 7-17, Houston Astros. 10 games under 500. It's April. Anyways. Vegas. So I was like, last episode, I'm ringing the bell. Hey, I know, we don't have a ton of fans in Houston, but shout out to all the fans in Houston, because the replies on the YouTube were awesome, because Houston fans are worried. And so that was the first thing I checked. Right now, Houston is a slight favorite to miss the playoffs. I think it's -105 to -110. If you don't get that, that's pretty close to even. That would be betting $10 to win like $9.80. A little math there.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of confirmation for me. Everyone was scared. Nobody was saying on MLB Network or anywhere everyone was doing the Houston's going to be fine. They're Houston. There's a chance. There's also now a betting favorite chance that Houston is to not make the playoffs. So off of that, I wanted to go look in on some interesting teams just to see some lines and numbers that, I don't know, jumped out and surprised me. So, the AL Central, which has been one of the conversations of this year. The Kansas City Royals and the Detroit Tigers are both out of the gate. As we've talked about those teams a little bit on this show, with the Twins kind of floundering a little bit, and kind of floundering a lot a bit, that I looped them in with the Astros as a team that would really have to defy the odds to make the playoffs at this point. That leaves the AL Central pretty open. Now, Cleveland's gotten off to an incredible start, but Kansas City and Detroit have also been doing well. I guess the surprising part to me when I brought up the odds, the books like the Detroit Tigers a lot more. The Detroit Tigers to make the playoffs, so that's win the division or wild card, they're plus 150. So again, it's not expected at this point of the Detroit Tigers. Again, that would be if you bet $10, you would get like 15 in return. So it's That's a pretty decent payout. I guess what surprised me was the Kansas City Royals, who I think are off to just as good of a start. They are literally 14-10. I think what's going on in Kansas City is arguably prettier than what's going on in Detroit. Detroit got a big bump before the season of people like, wait, I kind of like Detroit. I like this roster. The Royals are plus 280. So almost double the payout. So again, there's some money stuff involved here. There's also a lot of algorithms in play. The casinos don't lose money. That's kind of not how this works. But the Royals are almost double the odds in a bad way to make the playoffs, where I think they are very similar to the Tigers. I don't think, maybe you lean Skubal, who we're going to talk about him in a minute, but Cole Reagans has been really good. Both teams can pitch a lot. Both teams have enough in their lineup. I don't know. I think right now I'd pick those teams out of a hat. So maybe if you are a gambling person, the Royals would be the lean there. The biggest surprise that I think might shock people a little bit, or at least I know I was shocked by it, the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers are out of the gate hot. The offense is fully there, and that's kind of been one of the things Milwaukee's been missing forever. I've got a tidbit that I didn't know I was going to share on this program. I talked to Ian Happ today, mostly business stuff. But it's always good hearing from Happer, and I'm me, so there's a little fluff. Cubs are looking good.
There's going to be trickling into some baseball talk.
How are the boys doing? And he's like, we're good. We're playing good ball. We're feeling all right. And I mentioned to him, I was like, dude, how about Milwaukee? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, they're hitting. That's impressive. And he's like, he said, he was like, with Corbin Burns away, I was expecting them to pitch a little less. And he's like, they're still the same pitching guys. And I'm not doing Mets for clicks, which was just a conversation in the office. But the Mets just built their pitching lab. A decade after Milwaukee. I mean, that's no comment. No comment. The Milwaukee Brewers have been one of the stories of baseball this year, IMO. The fact that they are going how they are going. Now, like I talked about last episode, it's a lot easier to have a good start and fall off than have a bad start and come back. Could Milwaukee fade? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of young ball players that are breaking out, but you could spin that both ways. Milwaukee to make the playoffs is plus 120, which I'm shocked by. Like, with expanded playoffs and Milwaukee's history in that division and how good they've looked this year, they're 14-8. The Cubs are a half game behind them, but I don't know. It feels different in Milwaukee so far this year because, like I just talked about, they've always been able to pitch a little bit. I think there's different degrees to it. But, man, they're really hitting this year. That I couldn't believe that. So if you are a Milwaukee Hiver, is that what they call themselves? That was the craziest number to me. A couple more quick ones that I can point out to you before I get to some player stuff. The Rays are plus 170 to make the playoffs. Again, that's a really good payout for a team that consistently finds wins. The division's really tough. But if you are a Rays truther, which some of them are, that's a pretty good line. I'm not putting more on it because before the season I put way too much on Rays over 84.5. Just got really confident in the Rays for a little bit, so that's scary. 3 teams that jumped out the other direction. The numbers scare me just a little bit. Seattle is minus 135. Now, that pairs pretty well with Houston falling out, right? And I've been all over that. Although the AL East still looks good, and you can find the wins. Seattle missed the playoffs last year. They're currently minus 135 favorites to make it, which, I mean, we all get it, right? Seattle, they had 7 straight quality starts at one point. If the lineup does start to do anything and we know Julio's going to go, I think he had a huge home run the other day. I don't know. Minus 135 was just a little surprising. And Toronto's also minus 125, which just knowing how hard the AL East is, I know they've started to turn it on, and I actually like Toronto. But, to not get even pay for either of those teams to make the playoffs, which I don't think either of them are locks for. And I think we've seen in the past couple years that. Has Toronto made the playoffs every year?
Not last year, but or did they sing it? No, I'm blanking. They haven't really.
So they wild card. They didn't make the playoffs in 2021 with 91 wins, but it's before expanded.
Yeah, those two teams specifically, it feels like find ways to not make the playoffs the last few years. They don't have the benefit of the doubt earned.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when you're looking at this from the gambling perspective, what's the best way to make money? Those teams kind of jumped out as I was surprised in Vegas's confidence. Again, hey, maybe Vegas knows something we don't know. That's the whole great game. That's how they always win. Team-wise, those in the Chicago Cubs, I mentioned Ian Happ a second ago, minus 165 to make the playoffs. I don't know about that. You guys know I'm on the Reds train. You guys know I just hyped up the Brewers. I know everyone's kind of ready to move on from St. Louis because it's been a slow start. But, yeah, I don't know. Pittsburgh's been okay. I'm not sure they have the staying power. They could, especially if they call up that Paul Skeens guy. Our guy Jared Jones with another nasty start. I didn't know he threw 100.
He's got that?
Yes.
Okay.
And the nicest way to Jared Jones, who was nice and hot and everything, he did not give off 100-mile-per-hour vibes. But easy hunch, top of the zone.
Drippy.
Man, I guess him, Colin Stone, just handsome guys with good hair that throw really hard.
It's breaking stuff's what's great and awesome.
I'm the opposite of all of those.
He's extending?
Jared Jones, man. Keep an eye on him. Really nice guy. Those were the team ones that jumped out. Again, I was a little shocked. Royals and Cubs, their true playoff odds, I don't know. I guess I'm not as bullish on Happer's Cubs as I should be, and maybe I'll regret that. This is where it starts to get a little fun because I wanted to look at the big awards, Cy Young and MVP. We do this for Talking Baseball at the beginning of the year, and we throw out some of our award favorites and things like that. With the Cy Youngs, Spencer Strider was the easy favorite in the National League. Gone. See ya. Which has the National League, honestly, as for me, it wouldn't be a fly zone at all. Zach Wheeler, Freddie Peralta, Logan Webb, Tyler Glasnow, Zach Gallen, Dylan Cease. That's your top 6 right now. Those are 6 really good pitchers that have gone off to good starts that can do it for a full year. We've seen them. Hey, you've probably got your guy in that group that you believe in. And I mean, hey, you start getting to Glasnow plus 900. If this is the year he puts it together, sure, why not? But here's the point I want to make. The National League, those are 6 somewhat bona fide arms that have had big years before. The American League, here are your top Cy Young odds. Corbin Burns, okay. Corbin Burns has won it. He's with Baltimore. Sure, he hasn't really gotten off to a great start. It's fine.
Nothing that's tanking any chances.
No, but, it's not wow, Corbin Burns, AL, new guy, going nuts. He is tied for the best odds with Tariq Skubal?
Tarek like Derek.
Tarek like Derek. I always get it wrong. Which that's one of those, hey, he kind of became a sexy pick before the season. I think BBD had some Skubal stock. Same odds as Corbin Burns, which, hey, maybe it's one of those not as familiar with your game as I should be. I know he's a gross lefty, but I've probably seen 1.5 Tarek Skubal starts, like Derek. So, okay. Corbin Burns, sure. I love him. Hang my hat on him. Skubal, all right, here we go. Then it's Pablo Lopez, Grayson Rodriguez, Cole Reagans, Joe Ryan. Like the American League, it was kind of Garrett Cole, Kevin Gossman. Those were two of your big favorites coming into the season. Gossman's fallen off pretty hard. Cole, obviously, got told to stop throwing. He's starting to throw again. Exciting for Yankee fans. But, like, Garrett Cole currently has better Cy Young odds. How about this? Garrett Cole hasn't thrown a pitch. He has better Cy Young odds than Kevin Gossman. That's how ugly Gossman was out of the stretch this year.
Jeez.
Garrett Cole has better Cy Young odds than George Kirby. Justin Verlander's been hurt.
I'm shocked by the number I'm seeing next to Luis Castillo. I know the numbers don't stick out right now. The first 3 were bad starts, but not like the kind that tank your chances and are going to ruin you for a season.
Him and Logill are plus 2,000 or so, depending what website you look at. So, hey, I guess for the award part of the conversation and for the if you are into gambling, if you've got one of the horses you do like, there's numbers over there, like Luis Castillo, like you just said. Plus
you think
2,000.
He's going to be nails the rest of the year? He does lead the AL in strikeouts right now. Like
that's comparable to Yamamoto in the National League, odds-wise. And, like, Yamamoto almost can't win the Cy Young this year.
He's kind of clinched not winning.
Between
he might get a couple votes.
Between the starts and innings limit, like, Yamamoto cannot win the Cy Young this year. Luis Castillo could almost handily.
If he's just good the rest of the way, the numbers will look amazing, as is they're fine.
So,
I mean, his ERA is a 4.4, which, it's a balance of innings pitched ERA and strikeout award for the most part. FIP's 2.5. He is
right.
I would not be worried about Luis Castillo.
Maybe a little cheese there. The other one I'll hit quick, MVP, before we do a little talking football hashtag. AL MVP favorite?
Ooh. Soto?
Soto. S-O-T-O, Soto. Which Soto's been great. I guess so much has to sort out, and Soto's going to be really good.
He's not falling off.
Like, behind him, it's Bobby Witt Jr., who, hey, if the Royals, like I was talking about for their playoff odds, if the Royals make the dance and Bobby Witt is 30 homers, 50 steals, or wherever his numbers land, he's going to have a really good argument. Mike Trout is in the mix. Plus 700. Look at Mikey back at it. Gunnar Henderson, Yordan Alvarez. I don't know. I think in the AL, there's better. I guess I would tell you there's pretty decent value to be found if you're not in on Juan Soto winning the MVP, which let's think about how crazy that is for a second. Like Juan Soto, 1 year on the New York Yankees, MVP?
Yeah.
Before his free agent year? Judge just do something like that? Just wasn't his first year on the Yankees.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was surprised by that. Soto doesn't have an MVP.
No, he debatably should have been the COVID year. There was like kind of 4 guys and
right.
The way the shuffle worked out, but
right, his numbers were the most impressive.
He's had MVP years.
The Nationals weren't.
That year
I think he kind of got fan voted.
That year specifically, it was like the Nationals bad, so that hurt him, and
he missed
the first
the
10 games because he had a false COVID positive.
Oh my God. Well, either way, if that happened, I would be saying his only MVP is in the COVID year.
Yeah.
So if Juan Soto is in his prime. He's on the Yankees. He's having a great April, and April's been traditionally his worst month. So if you don't believe in Juan Soto winning his first MVP, there's pretty good value in the AL. I just kind of talked myself into the fact that Juan Soto is probably going to win MVP this year. Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. Where's that number land? That was a short around the office. Did that go out yet?
Don't know if it's out yet.
I don't know if that's out yet. Maybe this should be a recurring thing. What was your guess?
I said 15 for 600.
6. In my head, I've got 550.
Certainly reasonable.
Who knows?
I figured over 15 years because he's 25.
Shohei technically put a 7 on the board.
It'd be 40 a year, which is like a bargain.
If Soto wants to be ridiculous, he could probably get 701 over 40 years. That'll be fun to check in on by the end of the year to see where that contract actually lands. And the NL, the other final point I was going to make, NL I think is ugly. Mookie, Ronald Acuna, Tatis, Shohei, Harper, Olsen, Ellie De La Cruz's stock is flying up. I don't know. NL might be a bloodbath this year. I think AL's looking for a couple guys to step up. Whether that's a Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt, the National League. That looks like MVP bloodbath. But if Mookie stays at short all year,
Mookie just hits like this and does the shortstop thing.
That's the story. So that was a little what's the money saying segment by Jake Storielli. That's why you guys tune into this. And when you're not getting your money tips from me, we're talking NFL draft. The NFL draft is one of my favorite things in sports. Like I talked about, the rumor mill just already flowing is incredible. The Talking Giants guys, Bobby and Justin Pennick, Bobby Skinner, Justin Pennick, they're giddy. Bobby Skinner, who's one of the biggest guys you'll ever meet, was kind of giddy this morning.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of came in the room and everyone was bumping around a little bit. And the Giants fans are getting different rumors every hour that they're in on a different quarterback or they're in on someone else. And it's just the beauty of the draft that people spend hours and hours trying to figure out what's going to happen. There could literally be a trade for the 2 pick and the whole draft could go awry instantly. And now these people that have been making plans for months, these NFL executives and front offices, have to audible on the fly, and sometimes absolute chaos ensues. The draft's one of my favorite things going back to, there's a couple years where the Minnesota Vikings were late for their pick, so they got cut off. And it was just like, what? A, how is that a rule? B, Vikings? That can't happen. This is real life. You have one job. Teams have gotten better about it. But
there's better technology. There's
when you're watching the draft and you have that the pick is in pops up and it's your team or it's your enemy team or whatever it is. If you're a sports fan, the draft is just incredible. And a couple things that you probably know that you should be excited for. I'll give some takes around them. The quarterbacks are fun. You're going to see 4 to 5 in the first round. Caleb Williams will go first. I'm not as sold on Caleb as everyone. I hope it's a freezing bad take. He's looked incredible. I don't care about any of the silly stuff that people are, the crying, fingernail polish. I don't care. I've done both of those. I know his team got worse. Whoa. But there's not a ton of QB prospects that are... He played worse this year than last year. The offensive line was horrible. The team wasn't great. So it could be one of those look back and laugh. And maybe this is going to spin on my head because one of my things I love is when quarterbacks face adversity every week. Because I think if you're at some of the major colleges and you're dominating the O-line every week, like, it's a lot easier to be a quarterback. If you have better O-line and better wide receivers, there's a lot of guys that can get the ball to someone. The NFL doesn't work like that. So I'm not saying I'm out on Caleb. I think the people doubling down on Caleb being the lock of locks, I'm against that. I think he looks good. Trevor Lawrence looked incredible coming out, and Trevor Lawrence has been fine. The Urban Meyer time sucked, and I do not hold that against him.
He's taken steps.
He's taken the step. People thought he was going to take another step last year. He kind of did not. So we're going to find out. I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence is going to be incredible. Caleb, as QB prospects go, he looks pretty good, pretty damn good. I'm just saying all of quarterback prospects, and this is one of Russillo's things, so maybe I'm just piggybacking off that so much. It's less than a 50-50 hit rate in the first round. We have no clue. So I just don't have Caleb in kind of that super lock territory that we've seen with some QBs coming out, but it doesn't exist. And I guess that's what I'm fading on. I'm just fading on the concept of quarterbacks. I think Jaden Daniels, who's probably going number 2, I guess if the gambling odds were better for Jaden, I would hit him pretty good. I like him. He plays really fun. There's something about his running style that's elusive. That's kind of like, they used to say it about Tiki Barber. They said Tiki Barber never took the big hit. Jaden Daniels, he's really good at avoiding it. So if he can use his scrambling early on to get settled in, the way he passes the ball incredibly too. One of the bigger knocks on him was early on in his college career, he didn't give his receivers a chance. And I think he's gotten over that, and he lit it up last year. And I'm not the biggest NFL tape guy. Everyone says his tape from last year is better than Caleb Williams, which, again, just like my alarms and sensors that are going out, because I love team building and the risk that goes into it, and we're going to try this and do this. Could we not be here in 2 years and be like, well, Jaden Daniels, their last year of college, he did play better and he became the better quarterback. That is not a crazy statement in the world of QBs at all. At all. I don't know. I'm in on Jaden. I guess that's my statement. Drake May, I have no clue. I hope I think the Patriots are going to take him. Mostly because they need a quarterback very badly, and the quarterback also sells tickets. If they do trade back, start the draft. Start the draft. Whether it's a team trading up for a quarterback, I would also love if New England's just out of their dome and they took Marvin Harrison Jr. or one of the wide receivers. The middle of this first round is going to get electric because someone's going to fall in love with a quarterback, whether it's J.J. McCarthy. It's probably J.J. McCarthy. I guess Bo Nix is still in the mix, so is Penix. J.J. McCarthy is the one that you can knock Penix for his injuries and some of his previous performance. Bo Nix, you can knock for some of his previous performance. J.J. McCarthy, you're not knocking his previous performance. They just didn't need him to do a lot, which honestly freaks me out because Michigan almost didn't need him. But when he did, he stepped up. So I don't know. Maybe there's a leadership thing there, and if he was in one of the spread offenses, would he have lit it up? There's 4 quarterbacks that are probably going top 10, and 2 of them statistically are going to not be good.
You're just straight up. So
kind of pick your 2. And I don't know if it's May and McCarthy are the second 2 picks. I don't think that means I don't necessarily think that's a safer choice. And the fact that we've got all these quarterbacks make it a fun draft because you're more familiar. And it's franchise changing. At least 4 franchises in the first round are going to think they either have their new guy or they're going to be set back another 4 years, which is crazy. And that's why I don't want my Broncos to get Bo Nix, but they're the only team linked to him. Excited to see that. The wide receivers are really fun in this draft. Neighbors out of LSU. Roma Dunze, who's just awesome. It shocks me that there could possibly be 2 wide receivers that go before that guy, and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I don't know, man. I'm stoked for the Cardinals. Like, yes, Madden is a video game and it's not how football is won, but no, it's pretty cool. Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. just balling out. Like, if you're a kid in Arizona, times are sick. That's a highlight reel. So I'm just, again, I don't know what it means football-wise. I don't know how good Kyler is, and I don't think he can hold up for a whole season. But that in and of itself is just fun. If the Bears have a chance to do video game mode where they could draft Caleb and then one of the wide receivers, a lot of mocks have them taking Odunze. How sick is that? And by the way, as I'm telling you, hey, maybe sell your Caleb Williams stock a little bit. He's looking to fall into one of the best rookie situations ever. DJ Moore they signed Keenan Allen. And if they draft one of the wide receivers, their O-line's supposed to be enough that, I don't know, that's the video game. That's the video game. Brock Bowers, the tight end, is cool. There's offensive tackles all throughout this draft. It's very much, I keep referencing Madden. This feels like a Madden draft.
This feels kind of textbook.
It's all offense. And I don't know, man. I love all of it. I love reading the mock drafts. I love reading the letter grades. Make sure you guys check in with the Talking Football guys throughout the weekend, because they're going to be live streaming a ton. They're going to be posting a ton of content. I might be popping in at some point. We will see. I've always wanted teams, I don't want to say to take it a little less seriously, but I've always wanted teams to do more ridiculous things. Like if you were a team and you only took offense and defensive line one year, you'd probably have a decent offensive and defensive line.
You'd probably get a good core in there.
Like if you drafted 8 guys, say you picked up another 4th round pick. O-line, D-line, O-line, D-line, O-line, D-line, O-line, D-line. Something like that. Would that not almost guarantee that you'd be better there? Maybe that's Jakey bad.
I guess you need one on each to like fully hit, but if the others are like at least like starter level, you land in a
you hold
place.
like 8 O linemen and 8 D linemen, so O-line gets a little risky with all those rookies, I guess, but
yeah, that could be like that first year is weird, but it's interesting. Angels drafted a no-hitter.
Right. They did that, and it's like kind of working,
They're
right?
seeing the fruits of that.
And then the next year go cornerbacks and wide receivers. Again, I feel like if you do that, are you going to be too thin? I have no idea. No one's ever tried. I'm either breaking football or
spend
football.
The other spots.
There's free agency. You could still
get
your linebacker.
Like I guess free agency being before the draft, because if you did that and you were lined up for this, you'd be a little bit projecting like, at least you'd be projecting like first round we're for sure taking linemen and somebody might jump up to get the guy.
Yeah, I guess your hand would be
wants them.
Your hand would be open.
You wouldn't have the element of surprise as much as like NBA where draft comes first, or MLB where it's like it's not based on who you just did. But it'd be fascinating.
Yeah, I think if you're going with that method, I don't know how much the element of surprise works.
I don't know what you need.
Just some thinking outside the box sometimes.
Yeah. I guess if it would just be if anybody wants one specific guy, they might jump you. But game you're playing.
Landed in a funky spot. Make sure you're watching playoff sports these next couple days. Rangers, Knicks. Not bad in New York right now, huh?
Yeah. Tomorrow's a crazy day.
What are they doing?
Well, we've got...
Same time?
We have Talking Yanks recap night.
Right.
And it's during the Knicks. So that's breaking my brain by itself, and NFL draft. Which that will be my accessory. They're going to be streaming, so I don't know if we'll have access to that room during all that. I guess
after the warehouse, should we all be Zooming?
It's also my brother's birthday. I'm going to a dinner. Well, his birthday's Friday, but so it's just a crazy day for
goddamn
me.
Sports apocalypse. I love it. Thanks, everyone. Make sure you're subscribed. I also think we're at like 18K. Did we get there?
We hit it?
Let's see. I think it was 17.9, so if I jumped it, I'm sorry. It's 17.9. Subscribe.
Get us there now.
We need you. Have a good weekend.